to achieve sustainable business performance. So with Learning Outcome 2, we have 4 assessment criteria, 2 in the pass, 1 in the merit, and 1 in the distinction. So the 2 passes assessment criteria are 2.1, assess approaches to managing the performance of individuals. 2.2, explain the steps needed to create and maintain effective teams. 2M1, evaluate the external factors which impact on the management of teams and individuals. And then 2D1, analyze the management of teams and individuals through strategic organizational change. Now, like I mentioned in our previous session, if you scroll down to the bottom of this unit spec sheet, you have something called the indicative content, where it just lets you know what sort of items that we'll be covering and what things you should include within your assignment. So it's a good thing to look at when you're attempting to write it. And now we'll make a start on our session. So like I said, it's People Management Unit, and we're going to be looking at understand how to manage individuals and teams in order to achieve sustainable business performance. So what is a team? Now we've got a definition here where it says team stands for together we achieve more. So it's a group of people that have a set of complementary skills. They work together, they gel together, and they're required to actually complete a task or a job or a project. So that is team. Now we're going to look at how people behave at work. Now, there are mainly 2 types of behavior displayed in the workplace, so it can be positive or negative behavior. Now, their behavior can be based on a number of factors, but generally it's either positive behavior towards the organization or it's negative behavior towards the organization. So overall, the person's behavior can actually impact the organization. Positive behavior can help to build the organization's culture and so on. And then on the flip side, the negative behavior might actually deteriorate the organization's culture. So it really depends on what type of behavior the employee or the person there has. Now, we've got positive behavior of people on this slide here. Now, here are a number of points. So people who display positive behavior, they like trying to resolve a problem. They like to try and find solutions to problems. So they just generally work towards a positive outcome, to a solution. But in the case of organization, because of financial constraints, you may not be able to give the expected increments in salary. So these people may look at an additional source of income. So it may be a positive behavior for the organization, but that doesn't imply that the employee is satisfied with the organization. They might feel they're getting underpaid, they might be feeling extremely frustrated, they might even be feeling that they're not getting recognized for all the hard work and effort that they're putting into their role. Now, on the flip side again is the negative behavior of people. So we generally depict negative behavior as aggression or being withdrawn or displaced or even having sort of like a fixed and regressed nature. Now, negative behavior can also be associated with being like just destructing official property, using bad language or being aggressive towards other team members or just in general. This can actually lead to complex issues in and out of the organization. And it could also lead to larger issues like leakage of data, things like a widely discussed case that was happened in the media of WikiLeaks. So withdrawal may result in unnecessary leaves, and that will actually impact the organization's productivity. So how can we manage behavioral differences at the workplace? Well, behavioral differences can not only be between people, but also, between the individual and the organization. An example of this could be an employee who's rated below her expectations, and she might not feel that, oh, it's because of my work. She might think that I'm getting sexually discriminated against. So she's feeling that she's being treated unfairly and that it is a threat to her own individual economy. And during periods of change, people may also behave differently due to the fear of the change. They're not sure what's going on. They're very confused. There's not much organization during a period of change. So it can be quite a confusing time. So there can also be an introduction of a new business model, such as where services are getting outsourced, so you're getting redundancies, or you're getting just a loss of jobs overall. Now, the plus point of this is that most behaviors can actually be resolved within the workplace, but you've got to actually identify it first, and then you need to come up with a solution. So you need to work together to find out what the problems are, and then how can we actually fix these problems. So this can be achieved through the top-bottom, bottom-top, and horizontal communication. So these are the steps that can be taken to reduce the differences. So identify the personal needs of your employees. Announcement of due recognition. So if there's somebody who's been fantastic in your workplace who deserves an announcement or deserves to be recognized, do that. Imparting training on personal and professional development. So training, coaching, that's always a good thing to make sure that you're keeping up with. Keeping a close watch on person's negative behavior. So just make sure you're noticing what's going on. And an engagement of employee by offering fixed or fired, like, within the USA companies. So that was assessment. No, it wasn't. We're actually going to go on to assessment criteria number 1 now, which is 2.1. Assess approaches to managing the performance of individuals. Now, there are a number of approaches that you can actually look at here. So according to Armstrong's, the performance management is a continuous and flexible process that involves managers and those whom they may manage acting as partners within a framework so that they can work together to achieve the required results. So it measures outputs in the shape of delivered performance compared with expectations expressed as objectives. So in this aspect, it actually focuses on targets, standards, performance measures as indicators, and it also focuses on your knowledge, skills, and competencies so that you can get towards your desired expected results. But a comprehensive performance management strategy can provide a business with competitive advantage, and it can also improve employee morale and also their productivity. So the process to do this is you need to allow feedback from your employees and management, and also make sure that it's actually implemented. So you're not just listening to what they want, but you're actually acting upon it within the appropriate ways. So, what are 3 stages of performance management? Now, there are 3 basic phases for employee development. So we've got coaching, corrective action, and termination. So for coaching, it's just things like your coaching, training, and encouraging your employee. Corrective action is where you're communicating with your employee to try and get them to improve their behavior or their performance. And termination is self-explanatory. It's when your contract is getting terminated. Now we're going to look at performance management techniques. So there are key tools and techniques for performance management. So it means to measure, report, and manage your progress in order to improve the performance. This happens at an individual level or a corporate level. So there are tons of performance management tools designed to make this process easier and more effective. So we've got key performance indicators, KPIs, and metrics. So KPIs and metrics provide a way to measure how well companies, business units, projects, or individuals are performing in relation to their strategic goals and objectives. The primary value of KPIs is not in measurement, but is to enable rich data-driven performance conversations and also to enable better decision making. Hence, performance appraisals. Now, performance appraisals are they're very commonly used, and it's a very good performance management tool. So when it's used properly, performance appraisals are incredibly powerful for aligning the goals of individuals, with the aims of growing within the organization, to get your strategic aims met, to build your strengths. Now, we've got something called 360-degree feedback, and that's quite exploratory itself. It's 360 where you're getting feedback throughout from all those around you. So this tool is about answering the question, how well are people performing in the eyes of those who have a stake in their performance? So it provides individuals with an assessment of their performance based on the views of those around them. So it could be a supervisor, manager, direct reports, their colleagues or peers, customers, suppliers. So the list is extensive. So as we say, 360-degree feedback is from more or less everybody that you're working with or communicating with. So results are confidentially tallied and they're presented to the employee, normally by a manager. And the insights from the 360-degree feedback are typically used in employing trainee. So it can be used in training and for development. So here we have management by objectives, MBO for short. So MBO is a process of defining specific objectives and then setting out how to achieve each individual objective. So it's quite powerful for specific work that needs to be done one step at a time. And it's a really good way of creating a culture towards working towards a common goal. So the idea behind MBOs is that each objective is achieved, and which in turn it'll actually help you to boost morale and motivation. So I know on a personal level, will I have my little objectives when I'm able to tick them off and say this is done, and that's fine. It boosts you, it makes you happy that you've actually got to the point where you wanted to. So MBO involves measuring individual performances and it compares it with the standards that have been set. So you're all working towards the same standards and that there's a level of continuity that has been set out over there. So we're going to go on to assessment criteria 2.2. And that is, explain the steps needed to create and maintain effective teams. So to build a cohesive team, you need to pick a team that actually gets along with each other so that they've got some sort of mindset and goals, a common achievement that they can work together with. So everybody needs to be motivated. They also need to be synchronized. If they're not synchronized, they can be disorganized and the team might not function well. So for a cohesive team, you need to know the strengths and the weaknesses and set the tasks and objectives according to their own abilities. So there's no point in giving somebody who's not very good on Excel spreadsheets and work to do, say, this is what you're going to be focusing on. You need to make sure that that person is within the correct side of the objective and that everybody is given the tasks according to what they can and cannot do. So we're going to look at Dr. Meredith Meredith Bellman here, so Bellman's model. Now, Dr. Meredith Bellman, Dr. Meredith Bellman, she's actually a British researcher and a management theorist. He is actually a researcher. So he actually came up with a theory about book management teams. And he identified that there's actually 9 different roles within a team role. So there's action-oriented, people-oriented, and thought-oriented. Now, within each of these 3 headings are 3 different roles. Now, on here, we've got 9 titles, different roles. So team role, we've got plant, we've got resource investigator, a coordinator, a shaper, a monitor evaluator, a team worker, an implementer, a complete finisher, and a specialist. Now, it goes through what sort of contributions they can actually make. If I zoom into here. So a plan is creative, imaginative, free thinking. But the weakness that they have, they can ignore incidentals. And they're too occupied with what they're doing to communicate effectively. Now, a shaper, the contribution that they have, they're challenging, they're dynamic, and they thrive on pressure. But they're prone to provocation, and they often offend people's feelings. So this just tells you the plus points and the negative points within each of these roles. So we have Tuckman's model of team building. Now, he's actually his model actually explains the formation of a team from start to finish. So it shows how it matures and how the relationships are established from the beginning to the end. So we've got 5 different stages here: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So the forming stage is where the team actually gets together, they're formal, they're just getting to know each other. Storming is where they start to communicate. Norming is people are starting to feel part of the team and they realize that they can actually achieve the objective. Performing is where the team is working in an open and trusting atmosphere. And then adjourning is where the team conducts an assessment and they're actually, at this stage, they finish their objectives and they're disbanding the team. Now we're going to go on to 2M1, which is to evaluate the external factors which impact on the management of individuals and teams. Now, as you can see here, there's 6 different points. Now, the first is social cohesion. It's where the team are feeling connected to each other and they're strongly linked towards performance. Then you've got perceived supervisory support. It's where the management has a clear impact on everything from their performance and organizational commitment. Then we've got vision and goal clarity, is where the employees need to understand the day-to-day activities. We've got information sharing, is the flow of information that's working throughout the team. We've got external communications, is where the employees are encouraged to develop relationships outside of their team. And then we've got trust, where the employees have trust in their colleagues and management, and it's quite significant that they can actually work towards the common achieved goal. So we've got here, why is motivation important? So under optimal conditions, effort can be increased and sustained. Delegation without constant supervision is always necessary. Employees can become self-motivated, and motivated employees can provide competitive advantage by offering suggestions and working to satisfy customers. Then the bottom line, motivation is accomplishing things through the efforts of others. So if you can't do this, you can't get them motivated, then you're going to fail as a manager. And then we've got a few major theories of motivation. So the first few theories are on need approaches. So we've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got Alderfer's ERG theory, Herzberg's two-factor theory, and McKellen's learned needs theory. Then we have cognitive approaches like expectancy theory, equity and social comparison, and goal-setting theory. Now, we're going to look at this pyramid here. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow actually believes that there's a set of needs that need to be fulfilled, basic needs that need to be fulfilled so that a person can function to their optimal standards. Now, we start off at the bottom here, which is there's two sections which says basic needs. So, physiological needs, which are food, water, warmth, and rest. And then safety needs, so security and safety. So like job security, being comfortable with where you are, having a nice warm place to live, food and water. Second is psychological needs, where it's belongingness and love needs, so intimate relationships and friends. And then within that is also esteem needs, so prestige and feeling of accomplishment. And then self-fulfillment needs are at the top of the pyramid, where it says self-actualization. So you're achieving your own potential and you're including your own creative activities to get to there. Now, we're going to look at some issues that might come about with Maslow's model. So businesses actually do quite well satisfying the lower order needs. But the model actually states that there are 5 needs that are in order and they need to be fixed. So this order may also be not within the way that it should be. So order may also be inverted and meeting needs outside of the work. It's not actually being accounted for. And the model is not really developed for every average employee. It's quite focused. So we're going to look at Alderfer's ERG theory. Now, Alderfer's ERG theory, it stands for existence, relatedness, and growth. So Alderfer actually got Maslow's hierarchy theory of needs, and he categorized it into his own ERG theory. So on here, on this image we've got here, we go from existent needs, relatedness needs, and growth needs. So this here is showing that you need progression. So as the arrow is going up, that'll indicate that you're gaining satisfaction, you're gaining progression. Now on the flip side, we've got needs regression. With the arrow going down, if you're going downwards, it means that you're getting frustrated, you're regressing, your needs are not being met. So that's what this theory focuses on. Then we've got Herzberg's theory, and it rests on 2 assumptions. So the first one is being satisfied with one's job, and it's the equivalent of being motivated. So a satisfied worker is a motivated worker. And 2, job satisfaction and dissatisfaction are separate concepts with unique determinants based on work with accountants and engineers. Then we've got Herzberg's 2-factor theory. And now it says that the determinants of job dissatisfaction are hygiene factors, so pay, working conditions, quality of supervision, and interpersonal relations. And the determinants of job satisfaction are that you're getting the work itself is satisfactory to you, you're happy with the responsibility, you've got advancement, you've got recognition. Now we've got assessment of Herzberg. So the contributions of Herzberg's assessments are first to argue that job content is important, job enrichment, so the work itself is extremely satisfactory, and the model is appealing and easy to understand. But the criticisms of this is that it might be method bound. Some individual differences like desire for pay and so on can actually be negative towards it. Also, not everybody wants an enriched job. So it assumes satisfaction So it says that presence of motivation actually means that you're going to be motivated. So that was 2M1, where we evaluated the external factors which impact on the management of individuals and teams. Now we're going to look at our distinction question, 2D1. So analyze the management of teams and individuals through strategic organizational change. So a restructuring of an organization's business or marketing plan is typically performed in order to achieve an important objective. So, for example, a strategic change might include shifts in the corporation's policies, in the target market, in the mission or organizational culture. So, you should clearly define the change and align it to business goals, determine impacts and those affected, develop a communication strategy, provide effective training, implement a support structure, and measure the change process. So that was learning outcome 2 for today. What we'll do is we'll pop onto Moodle, and I'll quickly give you a quick glance of where you can find this PowerPoint. So we're just going into the people management unit here. And like I mentioned in the previous session, we're just going up here. The first, here where my arrow is pointing at, is people management spec sheet, which we've been looking at. And then we got learning outcome 2, which is the PowerPoint for your reference, which is what I've been working through today. So thank you very much.